Hello everybody and welcome to the channel Out of Ammo, Out of Time. I'm your host Krabby Terror 8 and welcome to part 16 of the Investigator games, and today we mark a special ending but also a beginning because this is the last Investigator of the Path to Carcosa cycle, Akachi, and very much looking forward to seeing how she does in the gathering. I was concerned that after Akachi we would be having to use another piece of software to run the Investigator games, but thankfully all of the Investigators from the Forgotten Age and the Circle Undone are now loaded into Octagon, which is brilliant. So we will continue with those Investigators, starting with Leo Anderson next week. So it's a brand new cycle of Investigators to put through the Investigator games and see how they go. So yes, Akachi, a mystic in the Path to Carcosa cycle. I spoke to her in the green room earlier, and I should also say that Twisted Tentacle in Vase, a very good YouTuber, has a great background on her. In fact, he has great backgrounds on a lot of the Investigators. I find his videos absolutely fantastic. So I'll leave a link to this one in the show notes. But I would encourage anybody to go and check out Vase's video. It's really great background as well. So I spoke to Akachi in the green room, and interesting, you can feel the thrum of power. Like a lot of mystics, you can feel the thrum of power in the air when you speak to her. There was like it's almost like a kind of a when you sit down you feel like that kind of static electricity feeling everywhere. Hair tends to stand up a little bit on end. Animals seem to slink away a little bit, so you can physically feel the power in the air. Not that Akachi isn't really a great person to chat to. She's very intelligent, insightful individual, very amused by the Investigator games. You get the feeling that even though she's competing, unlike some other Investigators who are very invested in really doing well in the Investigator games, Jenny Barnes, for example, to name just one, but Akachi, you feel like she doesn't really care either way. She's not particularly invested in winning in that kind of way. She seems to be operating on a totally different plane. However, when I did ask her, because I asked her directly about how she thinks she's going to go in the Investigator games, things got weird because suddenly her eyes became kind of unfocused, and she just looked like she was sort of staring through me, not at me, and she sort of, her face went a bit slack-jawed, and suddenly these strange words and phrases and I don't know started coming forth, talking. I don't know what language she was talking, but then she screamed and sort of collapsed onto the floor and picked herself up again. And when I asked her further about what it was, she muttered something about a vision or something. So I got the feeling that she had seen something about the future with the Investigator games. I don't know whether it was a positive thing or whatever, but she wouldn't say anything more about it. But I got the feeling that she had seen a premonition of her own performance in the Investigator games. So well, we will see what the future holds for Akachi in that way. I also spoke to the Ghoul Priest. Ghoul Priest doesn't like Akachi. Sometimes a Ghoul Priest is pretty relaxed about facing off against Investigators. Min, for example, pretty dismissive. Others, he actively fears them. With Akachi, I think it's true to say that the Ghoul Priest doesn't like facing off against Akachi. Inevitably, it's usually spell-based, and inevitably he ends up in a whole world of mystical pain. So he's not keen to be hitting the table anytime soon. Leader Chandler is very dismissive of Akachi. Leader Chandler usually finds that Akachi barely ever brings her on board because, let's just say, Akachi's not one for parleying. can happen, but it doesn't happen very often. Akachi's very much her own person and tends to deal with things herself. So, you know, Leader Chandler, not particularly impressed with Akachi and has very, very, very low expectations that she's going to turn up and ask for help anyway. So there we go. There's a bit of a chat there about those things. So before we get into this round of the Investigator games, let's have a look at Akachi's starter deck. Now, this is the Fantasy Flight Games official starter decks. As I've said before, they're never ideal. But before I do that, I should actually explain what the Investigator games are. I just realized I haven't mentioned that. Now, I know for those people who've seen a few of these videos, you'd be like, oh, we've heard all this before, but I'll just quickly explain. So it's like the Hunger Games. We're putting each investigator through the gathering, see how they go. They end up on a league table depending on their performance, from the best performance to the worst performance. And let me tell you, there's been some spectacularly awesome performances and some spectacularly terrible performances, and it's based on, and then, you know, that ranking is also based on not only how many victory points you end up with, but also how quickly you complete the Investigator game. So if two people have an equal rank in terms of victory points, it then comes down to who did that quicker, and then if there's equal quickness, then I guess we'll use some other criteria to divide them further, which hasn't been necessary so far. So I think it's 8 turns, I think, is the current record for getting through it. So that's pretty fast. You have to be pretty blisteringly fast, and I'd have to say that Akachi will probably struggle a little bit, I would have thought, to do that because of her low intellect or clue gathering skills. She's got lots of willpower. As we can see, she's pretty kind of, you know, average for fight and evasion or vitality or whatever it's called. I always forget what it's called. The wingy shoey thing. That's you know, it's the fisty thing, the wingy shoey thing, the bookmarky thing, and the head thing. That's usually what you use. But yeah, she's only 2 on that, which means that sometimes she is going to be challenged to discover clues. Now, of course, that's definitely going to be the case down in the cellar. However, she has some ways of managing that. But the thing about Akachi is, like with a lot of mystics, it really comes down to the synergy between the spells and other cards. If those all go together and they're going together well, then it's happy days. But the problem with mystics, of course, is that a lot of their spells, and one of the core spells that we're going to need to get through this is the good old shriveling, which we only have 1 copy of in the starter deck. The problem is it's only got 4 charges. So Akachi is better placed than some other mystics, that she can recharge her spells. She has different ways of doing that. So it doesn't mean that 1 shriveling is the end of the world, but in order to do that, you either have to be able to use her special abilities, or you get her special card. So her special card, which is quite nice if it does come up, is basically you can return that asset to your hand and then you can replay it again. For example, you might have Blinding Light out on the table. You don't need to evade any more enemies for whatever reason, so you decide to just cash it in. So that's the other thing you can do. So there is other ways that Akachi can get clues, and most notably is Drawn to the Flame. Fantastic card named after a very famous and awesome podcast, which I'd recommend everybody sign up to, where you can draw the top card of the encounter deck and you can discover 2 clues at your location. This would be an obvious play in the cellar rather than messing around with the Force Shroud. You can just get those 2 clues and move on. Particularly if you can, again, synergize it with scrying, which is you could look at the encounter deck. You could then arrange the encounter deck in such a way that you get the least impactful card, and then you'd use Drawn to the Flame. So you kind of, you know, using these synergies of these sorts of cards. So as I said, great deck, lots of different interesting spell cards, but the problem is if you don't get that synergy happening between them, it can be a little bit challenging because you either run out of charges or it's just not working that way. I mean, Akachi does have, you know, when your assets come into play, you get an additional charge, so that's nice. And if you get the Elder Sign, you can add a charge. So there are ways that you can keep something like Shriveling going, and in fact, it would be a benefit to have Shriveling on the table early enough that the chances of that happening and it getting recharged is there. But really, it's really about keeping Shriveling in hand for when we meet the Ghoul Priest, because otherwise Akachi will find it challenging to complete this. Really, having the Holy Rosary in hand as well is also incredibly useful and helpful, because that just makes things that much easier and more likely to succeed with that extra willpower as well, which would give Akachi a 6 willpower, which is really fantastic. Weakness-wise, the standard weakness is Angered Spirits. It's not the worst, you know, weakness in the world. It's not sort of min-level weakness. I mean, you know, you move a charge to Angered Spirits, and if you have fewer than 4 charges, you suffer a physical trauma at the end of the game. So, I mean, the Investigator games is moving on to other ones, and indeed, if she took physical trauma, that would carry through. But it's not terrible. I mean, it's not the end of the world if she didn't achieve that. It's just, again, it's just using up charges, and so it's it's more of an annoyance more than anything. The other weakness we drew, the random basic weakness here, is pretty standard. I think it's Paranoia, is it? Or is it? Just looking for it now. It's hard to find them here. Here we go. Paranoia. So discard all of your resources. Yeah, again, it's not the end of the world, but we do have emergency cash, and yes, quite a few of our spells are quite intensive in terms of expenditure, so 3s and 3s, but it's not the end of the world. Finally, in terms of allies, we do have one of my favorite allies, particularly for Mystics, which is the Arcane Initiate. Now, initially, I remember when I looked at Arcane Initiate, it just seemed like a terrible card. You know, you're putting extra doom on the table. Why would you want to do that? But what I realized is very quickly there are times when actually adding doom to the table is actually of little consequence. For example, if there is doom and you know that the agenda deck is going to flip the next go anyway, then putting an extra doom is of no consequence. The other time is, of course, if there's like 12 goes on the agenda, and adding an extra doom is kind of neither here nor there. But the obvious time to do it is during the witching hour, which is the turn when you know the agenda is going to flip the next turn, so it actually doesn't matter how much more doom gets piled onto the scenario, it will all get cleared away. And then once you have the Arcane Initiate, not only is it a horror and a damage soak, but you get to search your cards for a spell card, which is really, really fantastic. So really fantastic card, particularly at the beginning when you really want to establish the cards in your hand. So one we really want to get. Probably the most useless cards in this deck from a, it's a standard deck, is the Archaic Glyphs. If I was playing a campaign, this would be helpful, because if you take the time to investigate and things, and indeed if you had high enough investigation, then this would be a good card. This is a really terrible card for Akachi. She's not great at investigation as it is, without committing intellect skill icons, and it would just soak up time and effort. It's just not worth it. And also astral travel for this particular scenario is not that great either, because there's not that many places to go. This would be really fantastic in other scenarios, particularly those ones, you know, where you're investigating in some kind of underground caverns or dungeons, and you get to one end and then you've got to kind of get yourself back. So this can be a really, really helpful card when you need to get somewhere. But for this particular scenario, I suspect it's going to be the pips rather than for the spell itself, because there's not there's not really that many locations. So I'm not sure that we're going to be using that for its abilities that much. So there we go. There's a quick rundown of the deck. I should also add, if you're new to the Gathering, new to Arkham Horror, the card game, I'm assuming the people watching this know quite a lot about this scenario, so I would encourage you to go and watch some introductory Let's Plays or how to play. That's not really what I'm doing here. I'm assuming you already know this scenario and know the rules reasonably well. Okay, well, I think we're ready to go, so we'll close and shuffle here. Alright, so here we are with the setup. As usual, normally the study isn't out with the others, but that's just to save time in me messing around with it. Let me forward the turns to turn 1, because we start on turn 1 on our own phase, upkeep. Turn 1 mythos phase, turn 1 investigation phase. So that's that. We've got the 5 resources. So all we need to do now is draw our hand, but before we do, let's just read out the agenda and the act. So what's going on? It's late at night. You're holed up in your study researching the bloody disappearances that have been taking place in the region. A few hours into your research, you hear a sound of strange chanting coming from your parlour down the hall. At the same time, you hear dirt churning as if someone were digging beneath the floor. Trapped. As I said, it really would be better if it had an exclamation mark. But anyway, as you leap to investigate, the door to your study vanishes before your eyes, leaving behind only solid wall, as opposed to leaving behind Cadillac, I don't know. You're trapped inside your study until you can find another way out. The more I read these, the more I find things I go, well, I suppose. Anyway. Okay, so there we go. That's the act. Here we are. Akachi is ready to roll. Let's draw the cards. So before we draw, what am I looking for here? I'm looking for Arcane Initiate would be great. Shriveling would be great. Flashlight would be great. So I think if I could get the Arcane Initiate, Shriveling, and the Flashlight all in the first 5 cards, I'll be pretty happy with that, because that will allow me to set things up and get going. But things really work out that way. Let's see what we get. Okay, first card is Drawn to the Flame. Well, that is a really handy card. So I'm happy to get that. Next card is a knife. Okay, well, I suppose we don't want to use our spells all the time, and if we get something like a rats, something like that, we might want to dispatch with them. Third card is Emergency Cash. Well, that could be a handy card, but not right at the beginning necessarily. Guts, well, we've already got 5 willpower, so whilst Guts is handy card, it's less handy for Akachi. She's already kind of willpower heavy. And finally, Perception, which is actually a really good card because we are fairly low on intellect, so this would really help in terms of doing some kind of perception or committing to a skill test. So yeah, these 5. So well, I don't need Guts. I don't need Emergency Cash right now. Do I? You know what? I'm going to take the knife out because I know it's. I suppose it's handy, but do I draw 3? I might keep the knife because I don't want to get into a situation where I need to deal with a ghoul minion or something, and I don't want to use up my shriveling. So let's keep these 3 because they're awesome cards. Let's draw 2 more. Another perception. Oh, great. And excellent. Arcane Initiate. Perfect. So we won't play Arcane Initiate yet, like I said, but once there are 2 doom on what's going on, then that's the time to play Arcane Initiate, because then it's like, well, whatever. Whatevs. Okay, so that's not too bad. The problem is that I haven't drawn any of the spells that I need, but that's okay, because once we've got Arcane Initiate onto the table, we can use that to search up the spell cards that we need, and ultimately we need shriveling. The good thing is that shriveling is another good thing about Arcane Initiate is if shriveling is at the bottom of the deck, just using Arcane Initiate will shuffle up the deck, so that will make sure that if there's anything like shriveling at the bottom of the deck, it then ends up somewhere else. So that's really handy. So excellent. Okay, so happy with that. Let's put these back in the deck. Let's shuffle up the deck. There we go. We've shuffled the deck, and I think we're ready to roll. Akachi waves to the crag. The crag goes wild. So, and we're off and running in the Investigator games. Very exciting. I'm really hoping Akachi does well. Here we are in the study. 2 clues, 3 actions. What are we going to do? What are we going to do, Krabby Terror 8? What are we going to do? Akachi, what are you going to do? It's not up to me. I'm not doing anything. I'm just watching. I'm just commentating. So let's see what Akachi is going to do. So she's thinking, and indeed, yes, as we would have expected, she spends a resource and brings out the knife. Well, I think that's a good start, because just in case we get some kind of something, we've got a way of dealing with rats and various creatures should they arise. Okay, we don't want to bring out the Arcane Initiate yet because we don't want to accelerate the agenda, so we won't be doing that yet. So the question is, it's a 2 shroud and we are a 2, so do we use one of these, or do we try and just go 2 versus 2, which is pretty rubbishy. We've got Drawn to the Flame, which I think we'll keep for the cellar, so that's good. The cellar's taken care of. It's really just the attic and the study, and I think the attic is only 1 shroud, so in that case I think the quicker we get through the study, the better off we're going to be. But I don't want to use both of them, I suppose, so maybe I should, because then it's only 1. So well, anyway, let's commit 1. Here we go. We're going to commit a perception here, so it's 2, which gives us a 4 versus a 2. Let's see how we go. So we're going to investigate with perception. Chaos Bag says we didn't need to, but anyway, too late. So we were successful, and we got a clue, and because of that we can draw a card. Nice. We get Fearless. Okay, that's for Healing Horror, which I don't need right now, but might do in the future. I think for this next one I'm not going to use perception. Oh, should I use it again? Well, I don't need it, and it's only 1, so you know what? I'm going to do it, because the quicker I get through it, the more likely we're going to get through the Investigator game. So let's do it again. So here we go. 4 versus 2. Chaos Bag says -4. Wow, it was never going to happen, so that was a bit wasted. But anyway, that's the way it goes in the Investigator games. So there we go. Investigation phase done. And so in the first round, which was mixed, we got out the knife. We used perception to get one of the clues and drew a card. And then we used perception and we didn't get the second clue, which is clearly hidden away in a very deep, dark corner of the study. So there we go. That's the first investigation phase. All done. We're off and running. Let's move forward. So we move into the enemy phase, or yes, the enema phase, as I like to call it. And there are indeed no enemies to speak of. So let's move forward into the upkeep phase, and we get emergency cash, which right now we don't need, but however it may come in handy later because some of the spells are quite intensive in terms of their resource allocation. So there we go, we're moving from there. Got the knife, nice. 5 resources, lots of resources. So we move into the inaugural mythos phase, everybody's favourite phase. Everyone loves this phase. We all live for this phase. First Doom is down on the table. So we don't want to bring out the Arcane Initiate yet, but the turn after this will definitely be bringing out the Arcane Initiate. So it is now time for our first encounter card. And look, I just realised we've only got Crypt Chill on the table. If we lost the knife, it wouldn't be the end of the world. But it'd be interesting to see what we get. So the encounter deck gives us... You would think I'd scripted this up, wouldn't you? I absolutely shuffled all this beforehand. Oh my goodness. Last scenario with William Yorick, we got 3 Crypt Chills, I think, in total. It was a really, really chilly one. And here we go again. It's Crypt Chill is back. It's back, baby. Right, okay. So it's a test of 4. We are a 5. Do we care if we lose the knife? Is it the end of the world? We don't really have any other weapons, but do I really want to commit this? Because heal horror... We are... We got plenty of horror, you know? So do we really... You know what? I think we're fine. The Arcane Initiate can absorb some horror. We are 8 sanity. So I think we're fine. I think I'm going to commit this because I'd rather not fail this test. So that's a 5, a 6 versus a 4. -2 or better. Chaos Bag says skull. Okay, we succeeded. Great. Okay. No biggie. I'd rather not lose the knife because I think, you know, if you think about the relative strengths and weaknesses, losing a horror, no big deal. Losing your knife, not having any weapons, and then a ghoul minion popping up or something like that would have been much more of a challenge and would have taken up much more time. So I think it was a case of working out what was the least worst option. So there we go. We got through the mythos phase. We survived that. So we're back onto our second investigation phase. Put 3 actions onto Akachi. So here we are in the study. And we don't want to bring out the Arcane Initiate yet. That we'll do that next time. So what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? Well, the thing is mainly we just want to get this final clue. We've got no way of... Well, we could throw in the Drawn to the Flame for the intellect pip, which would be dumb, quite frankly. So we're not going to do that. We're just basically going to take our 3 goes. It's a 2 versus a 2, and hopefully we'll get a reasonable draw on the Chaos Bag. So first action, we get -1, so that's 2 versus 2, so that's not successful. Second action, -2, that's also not successful. Oh dear. All right, let's try again. And we try again. Third action, yes. Yes. Number of ghoul, there are no enemies, so on the 3rd turn we succeed. Yay! Okay, we've got all the clues. Fantastic. Now, we could basically flip the act deck, but that's not a good idea because at the moment, if we do spawn a ghoul minion or something like that, it can be destroyed immediately with next time. So we will do that next time. So next time we're going to do a couple of things. So this time all we did was just investigate. 2 fails and a success. We got the second clue, so we're going to be out of the study next time. And then that turn, we're going to do a couple of things. Of course, we're going to get out the Arcane Initiate. We're going to get her out. And we are going to get ourselves into the hallway and up to the attic. So it's going to be an action-packed round next time. So we'll leave ourselves in the study for now. We've got the 2 clues that we need. Let's move on to the enema phase. And there are no enemas to speak of, thankfully. So we'll move straight into the upkeep phase. And there we go. We didn't need the Arcane Initiate. We got Shriveling. That doesn't mean we can't bring out the Arcane Initiate, but that's great. So we've got Shriveling. We definitely need Shriveling for the Ghoul Priest, because without shriveling, we're going to find it challenging. So if we can now get the rosary beads, we're really set up to do well in this scenario. Awesome. Fantastic. Yep. So that was a good draw. Great. Things are going well. Things are going well so far. Let's see how we go. But as we know, in Arkham Horror, the card game, things will be going well, and they can go pear-shaped very quickly. So let's move on to the second mythos phase. So there are now 2 doom on here. And I realize that it's possible we can draw an event which will forward, add an extra doom, and so therefore the Arcane Initiate, that doesn't quite work, but it's a risk we're going to take. So here we go. It's time for the next event, and let's see what we get. So the event card for this mythos phase, wrong thing. The event card is see, this is why it's good to stay in the study. We got a ghoul minion. Hello. So we get the ghoul minion. Yep, humanoid monster ghoul 2/2/2. No big deal because the ghoul minion is going to be destroyed as we leave the study. So yeah, no big deal. Okay, so that's actually a good thing to draw because it's neither here nor there. Let's take a drink of water. Oakley dokley, let's move forward. So it is time for our next investigator phase, 3 actions, and boy, there's going to be a lot of actions in this particular turn. Yes. So the first thing we're going to do is chuck in the 2 clues. 1, 2. Flip this. Let's read this out. You notice that the edges of your newly purchased Nigerian rug are tattered and mud-stained. Finding this odd, you shift the furniture aside and pull back the rug. To your surprise, you see a door leading out of your study. You slowly turn the knob, and the door swings open, revealing your hallway below. You jump through the hallway, landing on your feet on soft dirt. On the soft dirt? On soft dirt. I mean, isn't it the soft dirt of the hallway? Like, it's not just general soft dirt. No. The door to the study slams shut above you, nearly knocking you on the back of the head. The smell of burning wood fills the narrow hall, intermingled with the scent of rot and decay. Okay, put into play the hallway, the cellar, and the attic and the parlor. Tick. Discard each enemy from the study. Bye-bye. Place the investigator in the hallway. Doing. And remove the study from the game. Bye-bye, study. Study is gone. We're in the hallway. Flip the hallway. Blunk. There we go. Not that we can. The walls to your house are splattered with mud. And your hardwood floor is gone, replaced with a dirt path. Oh dear, that's going to take some renovations, isn't it? Anyway, so here we are in the hallway. So that's the first thing. It doesn't even take an action to do that. So we can now delete this and we can read the barrier. Dun, 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 dun. A glowing barrier blocks the path to your parlor. As you move towards it, intense heat forces you to back away. Picking up a handful of dirt, you toss it at the barrier and watch in horror as the dirt, see, the dirt incinerates. They didn't say watch in horror as dirt incinerates, but apparently when you jump through your door, you land on soft dirt, not the soft dirt. So you can't have it both ways, Arkham Horror, the card game. It's either the dirt and the soft dirt, or dirt, make up your mind. Perhaps there's something in the cellar or attic that can help. You think there'd be a ... there, wouldn't you? ... Because if the ... isn't there, you might just go, oh yeah. But if the ... is like, oh, ... yeah, anyway. Okay, so so basically when the round ends, investigation hallway, records a number of clues to advance, bring on the Ghoul Priest. So there we go. Right, so here we are in the hallway, 3 actions. Obviously we want to get up to the attic. Yes, but before we get up to the attic, there's a couple of things that we want to do here. And the first thing is we're going to spend 1 and we're going to bring out the Arcane Initiate. Yep, it's our ally. I think the only ally we have in the deck. Place a Doom on the on her. So that's now 3 Doom, but of course it doesn't get triggered until the Mythos phase, so it's no big deal. Then we're going to spend 3. Whoops. 1, 2, 3. And why is there a clue on here? Did I not? I had this problem last time. It didn't used to happen, but I seem to be having more problems removing things from the cards. So I saw in the last one, I thought I'd removed a resource and I hadn't. It was a really small thing, but yeah, just in that case as well. Anyway, that was the 3 resources, and we bring out the old Shriveling. Now, normally it gets 4 charges, but we actually get an additional charge. So we get 5 charges, which is very nice. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 charges on the Shriveling. That's really nice to get that additional charge, and also we can add extras if we get the Elder Sign. So there we are. So that was 2 turns. So we brought out the Arcane Initiate, and we also brought out Shriveling. There we go. Now we can immediately fast exhaust Arcane Initiate. So let's do that before we do anything else. Let's exhaust and search for a spell card. So let's exhaust. Is this exhaust? I don't think I've used. Yes, that's exhaust. Ooh, move out the way. So we've exhausted the Arcane Initiate. Look at the top 3 cards for a spell card. Draw it and shuffle your deck. Let's see what we get. Oh, I was just going to say the other benefit of actually shuffling the deck is that it allows you to actually avoid your weakness. Not that we've only got 1 resource anyway, so it would have been no big deal. So there we go. There's only 1 spell, and that's the Astral Travel. So we can put that into our hand. Yep. And then the other 2 go back in, and we shuffle it up. So we avoided our weakness there. Yeah, so Astral Travel. Move to reveal location. I suppose if we wanted Leech Chandler or we needed to resign, this could also be helpful, because I'm assuming it doesn't provoke an attack of opportunity. So yeah, could be helpful. All right, so we've exhausted the Arcane Initiate, and that was a sort of fast action. Then we're going to move up to the attic for our final action. There we go. Attic flips. Doink. 2 clues, and after you enter the attic, take a horror. It's that bloody carcass again. Yeah, bloody carcass of a malformed beast. Yeah, I'm sure any kind of bloody carcass would sort of be horror-inducing, but this one's a malformed beast. So anyway, so let's add a horror to Akachi. Or do we add a horror to the Arcane Initiate? Might as well add the horror to the Arcane Initiate. Yep, there we go. Okay. Good. All right. So that's our turn. So in a very action-packed phase, we spent our 2 clues, which moved us to the hallway. We then spent 2 turns bringing out the Arcane Initiate and the Shriveling, which has 5 charges because we're Akachi. And we also managed to tutor up the Astral Travel spell, which is, yeah, you know. Yeah. And we got up to the attic. So nice, efficient round. Lots happened, lots of stuff achieved. So if we can get these 2 clues next go and get ourselves down to the cellar super fast, and then use Drawn to the Flame, we'll be in a good position. It'd be nice to get scrying, because then we can then determine to some degree what event card we're going to get when we do Drawn to the Flame. So looks like we're on track at the moment. It would be Holy Rosary in particular would be an awesome card to get, but you know, we'll see how we go. So that's the end of our investigation phase. We move into the enemy phase. Of course, there are no enemies to speak of. We have had an enemy, but they got destroyed in the study. So we move into the upkeep phase. Yes, we've now got 2 astral travels. Great. Yep. And we're going to move into the mythos phase, and indeed that's going to now trigger. So all of the doom comes off everything, 1, and all these dooms as well. Thank you very much. So we've flipped the agenda. Your house continues to change before your very eyes. The walls have decayed and the ground in many rooms has turned to dirt. It's almost as if you've been transported somewhere else entirely, although every now and again you recognize elements of your former home. Oh, that's where my shamanistic staff went. Oh, yeah, that's right. Ah, yeah, there's my, you know, sandals, my favourite sandals. There's my hair braids. There's my, yeah, that kind of thing. The lead investigator must decide either each investigator discards a card at random from his or her hand, or takes 2 horror. Now, I suppose, yes. So, there's only 1 card in our hand that we really want, but there's a 25% chance we will lose it, which would be really bad. We really need that drawn to the flame, because investigating the cellar is going to be really, really difficult otherwise. So I think we're going to take the 2 horror. Yep, we're going to take the 2 horror. Because we've got bags of horror, still got 6 sanity, so no big deal. Rise of the ghouls. The floor beneath you is giving way, and you see a vast network of tunnels twisting in the darkness below. Shapes and silhouettes of strange creatures move swiftly through the tunnels, trying to find a way up. You probably don't want to be here when they do. Yes, Rise of the Ghouls. Okay. Alrighty. So that's flipped the agenda, and it's easy to forget, but we still need to draw an encounter card. So what fun and games do we have in the encounter deck? And it's Dissonant Voices. Dissonant Voices. Still lives. Put Dissonant Voices into play in your threat area. You can't play assets or events. Yeah, no biggie. This is no biggie at all. We played all our assets and events last time, so no problem at all. So there we go. The good thing about Dissonant Voices, you can still activate your assets here, you just can't play them out onto the table. So yes, there we go. Okay, that's fine. So we move into our investigation phase. 3 actions on Akachi. 1, 2, 3. Before we do all that, we're going to exhaust the Arcane Initiate again. And we're going to draw 3 cards. 1, 2, 3. Oh, this is a tough choice. This is a really tough choice because we have a choice between Ward of Protection. So Ward of Protection allows us to avoid a non-weakness treachery card, or we've got Scrying, which Scrying allows us to look at the top 3 cards of the deck. Oh, that's an event. No, they're both spells, aren't they? Yes, they're both spells. So the thing about Scrying is, so this card's good, but if you drew a ghoul minion, for example, it wouldn't be helpful. Whereas Scrying is different because you can look at 3 cards and put them in any order. So that would allow you to see what's coming up, but you couldn't cancel them out. So one's kind of, they both have their strengths and weaknesses. This one eliminates something. You take a horror. This one, I think Scrying is better in some ways. I mean, this is a good card as well. I think I'll go with the Scrying. So we'll put the Scrying into our hand, shuffle up the others. A bunch of you are going, no! Woo! Okay. So we can't play it this time because of dissonant voices, so we can't play any of these. It's going to sit there in our hand. Can't play assets or events. So that's all right. We're here in the attic. We know what we've got to do here. It's really straightforward. We've just got to investigate for clues. We've not really got anything we can commit to this anyway. We've not got any flashlights or anything like that. So it's really just a case of straight up investigation, and hopefully 1 versus 2. Hopefully we'll do okay. So it's a plus at -1 or better. So let's just go ahead and do it. So first investigation. Draws a -2 from the chaos bag. I thought, has that changed? So that was a failure. Second investigation is a -4. Oh dear. Third investigation is elder sign. Yay! Right. So we get a clue. And because it's an elder sign, add 1 charge to an asset you control. Yes. So I guess we'll be adding it to this. So we've now got 6 assets on shriveling. Wow. Wow. That's actually good, because it means if we get a really nasty ghoul, we can probably do okay. So, like for example, if we get the flesh eater now, we could probably take it out and we'd be okay. So that's actually really good. So there we go. That was a little bit disappointing though, because we weren't able to get all of the clues in the attic, so we've still got 1 more clue to go, but that's all right. I'm sure we'll get it next time. But we did manage to get another charge on on shriveling, so that's good. Okay, so yes, very successful phase. Let's move on to the next phase, which is the enemy phase, and there are no enemies to speak of. So we can move directly now into the next phase, which is the upkeep phase, and we get forbidden knowledge. Here we go. Yeah, it's resources. I don't think we're going to. In fact, I'm going to use its intellect pip, I think, to see if we can get this final clue, because I don't think we've got emergency cash. I don't think we're going to use it, to be honest. And we've got out shriveling, so it's not like we're really desperate for cash at the moment, but we can use it for that. So there we go. This can go end of round, discard dissonant voices, bye bye. So there we go. Okay, so we're moving from the upkeep phase into the mythos phase. First doom on Rise of the Ghouls. Things are moving forward. Let's see what the event is. And it is the flesh eater. My goodness. This I think, is this a first? I'm trying to remember. There may be back, but this is the first time that I can remember that we've actually been in the attic, and we've actually drawn the card that spawns in the attic. That's right. Earlier on, I can't remember if it was Roland or somebody early in the piece, we drew the flesh eater, but we were in the study, and therefore the flesh eater got so actually there we go. The flesh eater spawns in the attic. This is an opportunity for us to get to an extra victory point. This is huge implications, because this means Akachi doesn't have to go fast through the if she defeats the flesh eater, manages to go on and investigate the attic and the cellar and defeat the Ghoul Priest, she will then, doesn't matter how long it takes, she'll then have more experience points. So this is a real opportunity. Luck of the draw from that perspective. This is fantastic. This is brilliant. So there we go. The flesh eater has spawned in the attic. You look tasty. Nom, 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 nom. There we go. So time to there we go. So that was quite fortuitous. Wow. So here we are. It's now investigation phase. 3 actions on Akachi. Yeah, so that's kind of, I was going to start playing these, but we won't be doing that. Before we do anything though, before we start fighting, we're going to exhaust the arcane initiate, And we are going to draw 3 cards. See if we get a spell, and we don't. So they go back in the deck. Shuffle them up. And now, let's see. So we're talking about a 4. Ooh, he's actually quite difficult because he's a 4 fight. If we use this, we're going to use 5. So we'll be a 5, and we can probably throw these in. So a 6 will be a 6 versus a 4. Do we do extra damage? We do. So it's definitely worth doing. The other thing we can do is we can throw the knife at it. But the problem is we are 3, so that would give us a 5 versus a 4. So that's a more desperate act. I don't want to use all my shriveling, but I'm prepared to throw in a couple of shriveling. See how we go. I think that's definitely worthwhile, particularly for a victory point. So I think it's definitely worth giving this a red hot go. So first action, we're going to shrivel the Flesh Eater. So so that's 5 fight. I'm going to throw in the Astral Travel, so that makes it a 6. Yeah. Now I could do 7, but then the problem with that is that I'm over-egging, and then, you know, it makes it harder. So I'm going to just go with the 6. We might take a horror from this. Let's hope we don't. So it's a 6 versus a 4. 6 versus a 4. Chaos Bag says, yes, it is successful because it's -1, but because it's a skull, we take a horror. Alright, so we do take a horror from it, but we do 2 points of damage. There we go. Successful. So that was our first action. So we took a bit of horror. Now we can, I suppose if there's another horror, we can probably take that, but we might need to use the Arcane Initiate. I want to keep using the Arcane Initiate to get some spells. But at the moment, we are going to need to be careful that we don't go more than 4, because the Ghoul Priest has Retaliate and he hits you for 2. So, in fact, we probably don't want to go more than 3, because 4, 7, yeah, so we can at least absorb two lots of damage from the Ghoul Priest if we have to, because we'll take a damage in the cellar, so that will bring us down to 5. We could then survive 2 hits from the Ghoul Priest. So no more horror. Unfortunately, the Arcane Initiate's going to have to take any more horror that we might do. So do we use the knife instead? The problem with the knife is it's then only a 4. Is it? No, 6. Sorry, 5 versus 4, so it's only a -1 or better, so it's a more, yeah, and then it's throwing it away, and then we don't have a knife, and then we're using our, you know, shriveling, so I think we use the shriveling again. So that's our second shrivel. Same thing again, we are now a 6. Sorry. Why did I think it was 6? Oh yes, of course, we're going to bring this out. So again, we're going to do a 6. A 6 versus a 4. So a -2 or better. Chaos Bag says -1. Fantastic. So again, that's it. The Flesh Eater is dead because we do +1 damage. So that's 4 points of damage. We don't take horror that time. So the Flesh Eater takes more damage. And dies and is in the victory display. Yay! I'm going to put the victory display over here. Fantastic. So that is brilliant. That was quite an achievement. That's fantastic. So delighted about that. Wow. Okay. So we've got one more go. I think we need to get this second clue if possible. So it's a 1. I'm going to throw in this Forbidden Knowledge. So that will make this a 1 versus a 3. So we need a -2 or better. Chaos Bag says tablet. -2. So successful, thank goodness we threw that in. So there we go. We get the clue. Wow. So we've got both of the clues, which means we do have a victory point there as well. The crowd goes wild. Wow, what an action-packed what an action-packed turn that was. My goodness. So not only did we shrivel the flesh eater to death and get a victory point, we then managed to investigate the attic on our third turn, and we got the final clue, which gave us another victory point. So we are moving ahead. We don't need to worry now about how fast we do it. We are going to be ahead of most because we have an extra victory point. If we also get the flesh eater, that's going to be quite interesting, but not necessary. And also, unless we get more charges on the on shriveling, where we don't really want to use up any more charges. I mean, we can. The Ghoul Priest will take 3 hits of the shriveling. That's assuming they all succeed. And the other thing is we've thrown in our astral travels, which were willpower. So we really need some more willpower boosters, because 4 versus 5, it would be really good to have the Holy Rosary, but we don't have them at the moment. But let's not worry about that just now, because we've got time. We can draw more cards. We can get ourselves into a better position. We've done an awful lot, so things are going really, really, really well. Oops. Yeah, that happened to me before. Reset screen position. There we go. Easy. Yeah, I had that problem last time where it was going in and out. But anyway. Okay, let's move forward. Very exciting. Enemy phase. There are no enemies to speak of. We dispatch them. Upkeep phase. Oh, yep, we draw. This is great card for playing spell or rituals from your hand. To be honest, I really want it for the willpower, because that's an awesome way to ensure we really bring the pain to the Ghoul Priest. A double pip willpower is almost assured that we'll hit him, so I don't want to use that for that. We've got plenty of resource. We can get more resource. So whilst on paper it looks great, I think I'm going to keep it for that. So that's the end of the upkeep phase. We move into the mythos phase. There are now 2 doom on Rise of the Ghoul, so plenty of time. Get down to the attic and things like that. So let's see what the encounter deck has for us this time. Encounter deck has Rotting Remains. Oh dear. Okay, Rotting Remains. Test 3. For each point you fail by, take a horror. We could use that for this, because we're a 5. Rotting Remains is a 3. So we could use this, but I really don't want to use this. I really need to keep it. So it's, this is real. Do we risk it? I mean, we can get rid of the Arcane Initiate, I suppose. Yes, so I think probably do that. So I think we are going to risk it, but before we start the skill test, I am going to exhaust Arcane Initiate, because you can do that. So if you're starting a skill test, before you start the skill test, and you commit cards, you can actually do that. So I'm going to exhaust the Arcane Initiate. I'm going to draw 3. Oh, it's there again. My goodness. 1, 2, 3. Nope, we don't get anything, but that's all right. We avoided the weakness. Put them back in. Shuffle the deck. Whoops. Did I just put them in the... Just checking the... No. I thought I put them in the discard pile by mistake, but I haven't. Okay, so we shuffled up the deck. So that was just in case we do lose the Arcane Initiative. We gave ourselves one last go. And here we go. 3 versus 5. Chaos Bag says -2. 3 versus 5. We succeeded. Oh my goodness. So there you go. This is the nice thing about this player window here. You can actually, you don't have to exhaust the arcane initiate just during your turn. Wherever there's a window of opportunity, you have to really look at the rule book to see where they all are. But for example, there is a player window, for example, in the mythos phase, after you draw the encounter card, for example. You can do it there. There's one during a skill test timing where you can do it there. So there's various times when you can do the window. It's not just during your turn. Anyway, so we succeeded. It was a 3 versus a 5. We got a -2, so all good. So we avoided taking any horror. Phew! Okay. All good. We avoided that because, you know, we can't afford to take too much horror. So there we go. We move into the investigation phase. Put 3 actions on Akachi here in the attic. So what are we going to do? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? So I guess we're going to move. We're going to move down to the hallway. We're going to move into the cellar. That's 2 goes. So cellar flips. Doing. Yep, 2 clues. And then for our next action, we're going to prepare for Drawn to the Flame. So what we're going to do is spend 1. Oops, no, we're not going to move Akachi. We're going to spend 1. And we're going to bring out Shriveling. Now, you're allowed 2 arcane slots. So that's our 2 arcane slots. We put 4 charges, because we get an extra charge. So that will allow us to, next time, exhaust Scrying, spend a charge, look at the encounter deck, put them in any order, and then draw to the flame. Or if they're so terrible, wait, something. But anyway, that allows us to do that. So that's our 3 actions. We've got no hurry now. We're ahead of most investigators, having been lucky and killed the Flesh Eater. So there's no hurry for us to do anything. Hopefully next go, if there's a fairly benign encounter card, we can take these 2 clues, and then we really are set up. The only thing then we need for the Ghoul Priest is enough willpower pips or Holy Rosary or whatever it may be to really take out the Ghoul Priest very easily. So things are going really, really, really well. This is actually quite incredible. So things are going very, very well for Akachi, but they can change on the turn of a dime in this game, as we know. So that's the end of our phase. So we move down to the attic. We forgot to take the damage. Yep, we took a damage, tripped over our staff and tumbled down the stairs. Ouch! So we took the damage. And then we brought out, for our 3rd turn, we brought out the Scrying with 4 charges because Akachi. Okay, so that's the end of our investigation phase. So we move into the enemy phase, or enema phase. There are no enemies to speak of. Not really had any rats or anything so far. It's been very light. Upkeep phase. We get another knife. Yeah. Really would like the Holy Rosary. That would be an awesome card to get, and more willpower icons like guts would be awesome to get. So there we go. Anyway, we've got time, so that's the end of our upkeep phase. All good. Let's move into the mythos phase. So there are now 3 doom here. We're not quite halfway, but we're getting there. But we've still got plenty of time. Let's see what the good old encounter deck has for us. And the encounter deck has my least favourite of all, the Ravenous Ghoul. So bring the Ravenous Ghoul onto the table. So the Ravenous Ghoul is... I hate the Ravenous Ghoul because... You know, unlike ghoul minions and rats and things, they're pretty pissy. The Ravenous Ghoul is actually quite tough, but you don't get any victory points and things. So, you know, Ravenous Ghoul is sort of the worst of both worlds, unfortunately. So yes, not my most favourite card to get at all, and I don't really want to. I don't really want to use any more Shriveling if we can possibly help it. So this is not great. Okay, I have all the cards to get. Just when you think things are going well, things go a little bit pear-shaped, as always. All right. Okay, so we move into the investigation phase. 3 actions on Akachi. Yeah, so I think I'm going to, first thing I'm going to do in the investigation phase is to actually exhaust the good old Arcane Initiate. Draw 3 cards. 1, 2, oh, there it is, 3. So no spells again. Put them back in, shuffle it up. So no spells there. So, okay, so what do we do here? We have 2 choices really, which is to fight or to evade. Now our evasion is 3, and the Ravenous Ghoul is also 3. We don't have extra pips to boost that up, so that's one option, is we just go 3 versus 3, and hopefully we succeed with a 0 or better, which is not great because the skulls are -1. So when there is no ghoul enemy, it's much more likely that you'll succeed on a even roll. I'll draw, but not when there's a ghoul there, so not great. The other option is that we fight. So we fight. So the ghouls are 3, and we are a 4. We could make that a 5, so we could fight. So we could fight and then throw the knife and hope that we take out the Ravenous Ghoul that way. That will take us a couple of turns. Or we can use Shriveling, which I don't really want to use. So it's really a kind of a... None of the options are perfect, but I really don't want to use Shriveling. It's possible, though, if we're fighting, we get our Elder Sign, then we can add an extra charge, and then happy days, we can use it that way. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to try and knife this ghoul to death. So we'll just do fight with +1. We won't throw it in. We'll just see how we go. Do we throw in this other knife? Maybe we do, because that's probably more likely to succeed. So yeah, I'm going to do that. We'll do a fight. So our first action is to fight with the knife, and we're going to add this extra knife in. So that's 3, 4, 5. 5 versus 3 to fight, but it's just +1. We don't get +1 damage, but that's what we're going to do. 5 fight. Chaos Bag says no. Nope, doesn't happen. Ah, bugger. That was bad. Okay, second action, I'm going to throw the knife at the Ravenous Ghoul. So that's again +2. So that gives us a 5, and we'll do +1 damage. So 5 versus 3. Chaos Bag says yes, we do it. So we threw our knife. The knife embeds itself in the ghoul. 2 damage, not clues. 2 damage, 1, 2. So that's good. So now we have a choice. We can either try and do 3 versus 3, or we can shrivel, and hopefully we'll get another charge down the track. What do we do? Or we try and evade, which I don't think so. We either try and just go 3 versus 3, and if we fail, we take damage. Or we use up another shriveling and hope not only that it succeeds, but hope that we get an extra charge down the track. See, the problem is that you need 3 perfect rolls to kill the Ghoul Priest. So you either do it or you don't, where there's no... Yeah. But the problem is, if we just try and do 3 versus 3, the chances are it's not going to work. So I think we use the shriveling, because it feels like it's the most likely outcome. So we use one of our shrivelings, which gives us a 5 versus a 3. I don't want to use this. So I think we go a 5 versus a 3. Chaos Bag says -2 again. Yep, -2. Is that another -2? Yeah, -2 from the discards the knife. Yeah, -2. So it's -2 again. So that was a 5 versus a 3. Ravenous Ghoul dies. We don't take any horror, thankfully. So that was not ideal, because that's used another charge. But we've still got 3 left. It's not the end of the world. And that's the end of our turn. That was a very frustrating turn. We didn't get to do anything we wanted to do. We used up all our knives. We did manage to kill the Ravenous Ghoul by failing with the knife, then throwing the knife successfully for 2 damage, and then shriveling for another 2 damage. So we killed the ghoul, but it was not an ideal round, and leaves us a little bit vulnerable. But we managed to do what we needed to do, so that's good. All right, let's move forward into the enemy phase. Well, there's no enemy to speak of, so that's good. So we move into the upkeep phase. We get an extra resource, plenty of resources, and we draw Unexpected Courage. Great card to get, because again, if we're going to defeat the Ghoul Priest, and now we have 3 charges and 3 goes, we're going to need these, because we're going to be needing to be doing 7 versus 4 at the very least if we're going to defeat the Ghoul Priest. Okay, so that's good. All right, so let's move forward into the mythos phase. There's now 4 on here, so we've still got a bit of time, but time is marching on. That really delayed us, so we need to get into the hallway, and we need to get some more good cards so that we can move forward. So let's see what the encounter deck has to say. My palms are getting sweaty now, because like things were going well. I only took 1 card. Let's see what we get from the encounter deck. And we get rats. Oh, God. No. You see, we haven't got any knives anymore, so this could just delay. And it's not the end of the world, but it's going to delay us further, possibly. Which is not what we need right now. But anyway, we got rats. So that's what we got. Okay. Not the end of the world. So let's move into our investigation phase. 3 actions on Akachi. Very good. And so first thing is, again, let's exhaust the Arcane Initiate. Draw 3. 1, 2, 3. That's not a spell. That's a spell. That's not a spell. Holy Rosary again. So we can draw Alchemical Transformation, spend a charge, test 1. If you succeed, gain a resource, which we really don't need, but it's good for the willpower pips. So the more willpower pips we get, I'll shuffle that up, the better we're going to be in terms of defeating the Ghoul Priest. So there we go. So let's just do 1 versus, this is a 1 versus a 2. Let's see how we go. First action, fight the rats. Chaos Bag says -4. Nope. Fight the rats again. Chaos Bag says -2. No, I can't believe this. Fight the rats for a 3rd time. Chaos Bag says -1. Oh my goodness. Dead. So we used... Oh, terrible. We wasted a whole turn. Oh boy. Okay. Oh, that is so frustrating. We wasted a whole turn on the rats. Can you believe it? The crowd is like, boo, oh dear. The crowd is so disappointed. Every time Akachi tries to go for clues, some other monster appears. Arcane Initiate sulking in a corner. Oh dear, things are not going the way we'd have hoped. But never mind. We'll keep going. That's the way it goes. Okay. So we move into the enemy phase. There are no enemies to speak of. So we move into the upkeep phase, and we get Ward of Protection. Okay, good card. Good card to get. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're building up cards here. Okay, we move into the next mythos phase, and there's now 5, so things are moving forward quite fast here. So I'm getting a bit concerned. So I think we might be using this. We might actually use the water protection, but I suppose if it's another ghoul or something, there's not a lot we can do about that. So let's see what we get. See what the encounter card draws, and it is not. It is Grasping Hands. Test 3. I think we can deal with that. So 3 versus 3. It's a 3 versus a 3. We've only taken 1 damage so far, so it's not the end of the world. I think I might be killing the initiate here if we take quite a lot of damage. So yeah, we're not going to commit cards, but we are going to exhaust the initiate, and we're going to draw 3 again. 1, 2, and 3. That's not a spell. That is a spell, Blinding Light. Well, this could be quite handy if we need to evade something. So let's put those back in. Let's shuffle them up. Okay, 3 versus 3. Chaos Bag has 0, so all good again. Woo! So there we go. So now this isn't a bad spell if we need to evade. If we need to evade the Ghoul Priest, or we need to evade something else. This is quite a nice card to get. It's not a spell as in an arcane slot. It's a one-off. So and if you succeed, you deal a damage to the enemy. So this could be a nice way that if we're failing with the Ghoul Priest, we can evade the Ghoul Priest and do the final point of damage instead of standing and fighting. So nice card to get. This arcane initiate has been really fantastic, and also she's still there to soak up some damage and horror should that need arise. Okay, all right. So that's good. We didn't get another monster. So 3 actions on Akachi. Now we are here in the cellar. Have we moved it on? No, it's still on the mythos phase. Let me move it on to the investigation phase. We're here in the cellar with 3 actions. We want to use Drawn to the Flame, which is draw the top card of the encounter deck, then discover 2 clues. But before we do that, we are actually going to take an action. We're going to do this, and we're going to exhaust scrying. Yeah. Look at the top 3 cards of the encounter deck and return them in any order. So let's have a look at the encounter deck. 1, 2, 3. So either we can draw Place of Doom on the current agenda. Now it's at 5, so that would accelerate that. We could, you can't play any assets or events. Till the end of the round. Would we be wanting to play any assets or events? No, maybe. And then the Ghoul Minion, which we don't want. So I think the obvious order is Ghoul Minion at the bottom. Yeah, because that one's not going to matter, because that one controls the current to advance. So you would, because next time will be 6 Doom, and then if you drew that, then you'd be at 7, so you would lose a go. So you'd want that on the bottom. Ghoul Minion second. Do we care? And then Dissonant Voices on the top. I think that's the way that we do it. And then what we can do is we can then rotate it again, so we can do that a couple of Oh, it happened again. We can do that a couple of times. Okay. So let me just make sure that's right. Yeah, that one's first. That one's second. That one's third. So we put that one down there. Put that one there. So we get dissonant voices. Cool. Which means... yeah. Or do we want that at the bottom? Because that'll get shuffled away. Yeah, maybe it's better actually, because that'll get shuffled away. I've actually changed my mind. I'm going to put that there. I'm going to put that there and that there. So whilst it'll make this go forward, then the ghoul minion gets shuffled away. I know then there's another ghoul, but we could draw the icy ghoul or something. So I just think that's probably the way to go. All right. So that was our first action. For our second action, we draw Drawn to the Flame. We play Drawn to the Flame. Draw the top card of the encounter deck. Surprise, surprise, it's Dissonant Voices. So we put out Dissonant Voices. And we discover 2 clues. There we go. Wow. Crowd goes wild. And that's our next victory point. So we now have all of our clues. We've got all of the victory points. All that we need to do now is get ourselves into the hallway and get that Ghoul Priest dispatched. Oh, I've just realised I've got... okay. No. Yeah, no, that wouldn't have worked. Okay, sorry. All right, so I think the thing is now is to get ourselves out of the... let's get ourselves up to the hallway. So let's... third action, move. Okay. So that was that round. We scryed the encounter deck. We got Dissonant Voices, Still Lives. We got our 2 clues from Drawn to the Flame, which gave us another victory point, and we moved back to the hallway. So that's the end of our successful turn. So we're really now setting ourselves up for the Ghoul Priest. We've got a number of cards that we can now use against the Ghoul Priest, so feeling pretty good from that perspective. So yes, so that's quite good. All right, enemy phase. There are no enemies to speak of. We move into the upkeep phase. Wow. So this is great because well, we've got 3. Well, yeah, this is great because we could. Oh, what do we use it for? Because we could use this to return that to our hand and then play it out again. Yeah, fantastic. So that's actually a really good setup. So that means then we end up with 5 charges on shriveling. So that's great. That's actually really good. Okay, and we've got heaps and heaps of resources. So we've got heaps of stuff. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We've got 7 cards in hand. All is looking good. Okay. So we move to the mythos phase. There are now 6 on Rise of the Ghouls. So yes. So we're 1 away from that flipping. We definitely want to get ourselves set up as much as we can. Now, oh, that's gone. The Dissonant Voices is now gone. So before, I think there's a window here. Before, oh no, after we draw the encounter card is when there's a player window. So we check the Doom Threshold, we just did. We draw the encounter card, and it is indeed Ancient Evils. I'm going to exhaust the Arcane Initiate have a look. 1, 2, 3. There are no spells, so they all go back in. Shuffle up. Now, this is place a doom on the current agenda. Effect can cause the agenda to advance. So we've got two choices here. We can actually use ward of protection and stop that, which would then mean we gives us a go to actually get ourselves ready for the Ghoul Priest, which I'm thinking is a good idea because it would allow us to get things like get the Spirit Speaker out, exhaust that, bring back Shriveling, repay Shriveling with 5. So it would allow us to do that, which feels like a good idea. So can you use it on that? What does it say? When you draw a non-weakness treachery card, it is. Do we use it? Do we use it now? Or do we let it go forward? Therefore, we would then spawn a ghoul. So then, what would be happening is we would then probably use our Shriveling to kill that ghoul if it was spawning in the hallway, and then we could do that. But the only problem is then there's a no, that other ghoul never exists because when this flips over, it all gets shuffled and redrawn. So I'm actually thinking maybe it's not the end of the world. So maybe we actually let this go rather than using this, because what might happen is we spawn the Ghoul Priest and then we get something like, I don't know, Rotting Rim or something awful. Plus the wildcard pip is incredibly useful. So it feels like the risk of letting the Doom advance is not as bad as using up the Ward of Protection. So my feeling is that 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, rather than using up the we'll let it happen. So Ancient Evils, another Doom goes on here. Yep. So that means that flips. So there we go. So we've got to flip this. We're in no hurry, so whoops. That's the 7. We flip it. Okay, so a feral beast, roughly humanoid, with canine cast and hooves for feet, tears through the ground in front of you. Below the floor, you can see vast tunnels beneath your house. Fiendish howling echoes from deep within the underground caverns. So shuffle the encounter discard pile into the encounter deck and discard from it until a ghoul enemy is discarded, and we draw that. Okay. So that was going to happen anyway, so we shuffle these into the encounter deck. Yes, let's shuffle this. Shuffle. All right. Okay, let's start drawing until we get a ghoul. Nope. 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 Yes, ghoul minion. We got a ghoul minion anyway. Okay, so we've got a ghoul minion. All right, let's just delete these ones out. Back to the... There we go. So we got the ghoul minion. It's no big deal. Now that we've got this, we can actually use the shriveling to shrivel the thing, and then we can then bring that back, as long as we don't overuse shriveling, but I think we should be okay. All right, so here we are. They're getting out. You hear a crazed howl outside, and suddenly all the creatures turn their attention to that sound. They rush to escape the house, breaking down doors and clawing at everything in their way. At the end of the enemy phase, each unengaged ghoul moves towards the parlour. At the end of the round, place 1 doom on this agenda for each ghoul enemy in the hallway. So we've got 10 goes. We've got plenty of time. There is no hurry. We've got past this threshold. We've got essentially 10 turns, so we've got no hurry to finish this off. Let's dispatch this ghoul and set ourselves up to get rid of the Ghoul Priest. I'm glad we didn't use our Ward of Protection. We might need it down the track. And we can still use scrying to look at the events anyway, if we want to, if we need to. So there we go. That was the Mythos phase, but we've done that, but we mustn't forget we still have to draw an encounter card. It's easy to forget that bit. So we draw an encounter card and we get Obscuring Fog. This is either the worst thing you can get when you're in something like the cellar, or it's just, you know, whatevs. So Obscuring Fog in the hallway, +2 Shroud, really doesn't matter. Let's put it to the back. Where is it? Center back. There we go. Good. That was a good draw. Okay, so that's the end of the Mythos phase. So we are now into, again, our investigation phase. 3 actions on Akachi. So the plan here is to dispatch the ghoul minion and then probably bring out the spirit speaker, so they get that out so that we can bring shriveling back to our hand. That's probably the way we're going to go here. So 2, so that's good. It's a 2/2/2, which means hopefully we spend one of our shrivelings. So that's 5 versus 2, and we do +1 damage. 5 versus 2. Chaos Bag says -1. We don't take horror. Successful. Ghoul minion dies. Brilliant. First time. So there we go. Dispatched. Excellent. So, okay. So for the next thing we're going to do is we're going to spend 2. That's the second thing. And we're going to bring out the Spirit Seeker. It's an asset, but it doesn't take up a slot, so we'll just stick it here. So you can exhaust the Spirit Speaker, choose an asset, return that asset to your hand. Or move all the charges to your resource pool. We don't need to do that. So we're going to do that right now. We're going to exhaust it. We're going to return the shriveling back to our hand. That's right, isn't it? Choose an asset you control. Yep. With charges. Yes. Return that asset to your hand. Did that. And then for our third action, we are going to return shriveling. So that's 3 resources. It's quite resource intensive, all this though. Luckily we've got lots of resources. 2, 3. And we get 5 charges. Wow, that's awesome. Woo! Okay. Excellent. So that's really good, because that means we've got plenty of charges. And in fact, we could do that again. So if we get more things, more creatures we need to dispatch, and we're using up those, we can do it again. So that's very nice. So that's the end of our turn. So in this turn, we got rid of the ghoul minion. We're really dispatching these ghouls quite a lot. We brought out our spirit speaker and fast drew shriveling back to our hand, and then replayed shriveling with 5 charges on it. Fantastic. So getting ready to fight that Ghoul Priest. Enemy phase, there are no enemies to speak of. We got rid of them. Upkeep phase, we get a flashlight, which is completely useless. We do not need a flashlight. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We've got 7 cards. Yes. So useless draw, but never mind. Doesn't matter. I keep counting these cards. It actually tells me here. I've just realised it actually tells me how many cards I've got in my hand. All right. So we move into the Mythos phase. There is a Doom on the Mythos. Now we've got this in case we get a terrible card, but let's see what the encounter deck gives us. And the encounter deck gives us, Ancient Evils. Look, I think it's fine. I think we can add an extra Doom in for that. Yep. Okay. Easy. All right. Excellent. So there we go. We can now move into the investigation phase again. We put 3 actions on Akachi. Exhaust the initiate. Let's see what. 1, 2. I don't know how many spells are left in this deck, actually. I don't even know if there's any left. I've only got 10 cards left. So maybe I'm searching for things that don't exist. I don't know. So there we go. So we got 3 actions. The question is, have we got enough here to take on the Ghoul Priest this time? We've certainly got enough charges on our shriveling. We could certainly... so what we could do is we could scry. So what I'm thinking we do is we scry our own deck. Did I shuffle it up? I better shuffle it again. Okay. We could scry our own deck. Then we could draw cards that are going to help us, because this is useless. So we need to draw cards which are actually going to help us defeat the Ghoul Priest. So anything with willpower on it, or even if Holy Rosary is there, because I think we're pretty much ready to take on the Ghoul Priest. I don't really want to delay it any further. I don't see any reason, but we want to be in the best possible situation to do that. So that feels like the best thing to do. So more willpower cards, another unexpected courage, or the Rosary. Any of those would be really helpful. So let's draw. For our first action, let's exhaust scrying. Top 3 cards of the Investigator's deck. 1, yes. 2, 3. No, yes. Perfect. We get guts. Awesome. So put these back in. Shuffle them up. So that was good. So that... Oh, what am I doing? You don't draw it. You don't draw it. Let's put them in any order. I've already... I remember what the 3 were. That's all right. We will... so what I'll do is I will look at all the cards. I'll bring back the ones I got, which was that one. And what was the 3rd one? It was that. There we go. I will shuffle the others and I'll put these back in any order, which was that one's the useless one. So that one, and then that one. There we go. Sorry about that. That was silly of me. Okay. Second turn. Draw a card. Guts. 3rd turn. Draw another card. Yeah. Okay. We've got 9 cards in our hand. But we don't test until the end. So anyway, we can throw out. We can throw out emergency cash. And we can throw out flashlight. We don't need either of those. Sorry about that. That was a bit of a silly thing. Doesn't matter. Now we could throw in scrying for extra resources, but I don't think we need resources. The only resource we really need, well, that would be for that too. And then if we need to do a ward of protection. So as long as we've got 3 resources, which we do, so I don't see any need to. And it's a fast play anyway, so you could do it on the fly if you really needed to. We don't really need Arcane Initiate to do anything from now on except just take damage if we need to. I think we're in a really good place now to take on the Ghoul Priest. So I think we're ready to do that. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't. I think we've over-prepared and there's no need to stop any longer. So that's the end of our turn. So the 3 things that we did was we scried, we put them in order, and then we drew the guts and the alchemical transmutation. Okay, so we move into the enemy phase. There are no enemies to speak of. We move into the upkeep phase. Okay, so we've got to get rid of that one and get rid of that. So we got rid of 2 cards in our hand. We're now to 8. Now it's time to pay the 3. 1, 2, 3. Flip this. Using the barrel from the attic, you carry ice and snow from the cellar and hurl it at the barrier. The barrier sparks and shudders as it consumes the ice and then hisses and fades out of existence. The barrier blocking the passage into the parlour has vanished. Reveal the parlour. Put Leader Chandler into play and the Ghoul Priest in the hallway. Oh, yes, I'm here. Hello, everybody. Well, I don't think I'll be much help this time. Akachi hardly ever asks me for help, so I'll just take a little nap in the corner and you lot can keep doing what you're doing. And Ghoul Priest arrives. Hello, is that a shrivel? Oh dear, this is looking bad. Please don't fry me. I'm a nice person, really. So there we go. What have you done? A woman with a torch stands in your parlour, a glimmer of hatred in her eyes. What have you done to my barrier? She screams furious. Before you can answer, a ghastly wail sounds behind you. Ah! And a creature wearing robes and a deer skull mask tears through the wall, advancing towards you. If the Ghoul Priest is defeated, advance. Here we are. Everything is ready to roll. We are ready to take on Ghoulie. Okay. Drink of water before we do that. All right. So, move into the mythos phase. There's an extra doom, 3 doom on there. It is now time to have a look at the encounter deck. Now, we do have the Ward of Protection. So, if the whatever we draw is so heinous that we need to stop it, then we will. What do we get from the encounter deck? And we get, well, actually, Frozen in Fear. No, this is actually this is actually one card we don't want to get. It's a treachery. It's a terror. The last thing we want is actually, basically, we would only then have 2 goes to defeat the Ghoul Priest. We don't want that. Of all the cards to get, this would have been an absolute nightmare. So thank goodness we kept the Ward of Protection. So yeah, fast play. When you draw a non-weakness treachery card, cancel that card's effect and take a horror. So indeed, we are using the Ward of Protection. So that goes, cancel that, but we do take a horror in the process. Now, do we take the horror or do we get... I think we get our Arcane Initiate to take the horror. So the Arcane Initiate dies. Yep. Arcane Initiate is gone. So we are now... it's just us versus the Ghoul Priest. Oh my goodness, like, I was thinking, there can't be any encounter cards that are that bad. Like, you know, whatever we got, if we got Crypt Chill, Frozen in Fear, that would have been really, really bad. Or potentially really, really bad. So the fact that we had the Ward of Protection was fantastic. Ooh, okay. So here we are. Did I spend the 1? 1 resource. Oh, I did. I did spend the 1. Okay. All right. That's the end of the mythos phase. We now move into the investigation phase. 3 actions on Akachi. It is now time to kill this Ghoul Priest. Let's do it. Ooh, big deep breath. Okay. Right. So, we're going to shrivel the Ghoul Priest. Fight, which gives us 5. 5 versus 4, which is not great. However, we're going to make that a 7. So that gives us a 7 versus 4. Now, do we make it an 8 versus 4? I think we do, because then it's almost assured. The only thing is then, yeah, I think we make it an 8. We want this to work, and we get to draw a card as well. So 8 versus 4. So basically, as long as we don't auto fail, we're fine. Yep. 5, 6, 7, 8 versus 4. Chaos Bag says -1, so we don't take a horror, we succeed. 2 damage on the Ghoul Priest. Brilliant. So they deleted, and we draw a card for guts, and we get, that's right, isn't it? We do get with guts. Check. Yep, draw a card, and it couldn't have been a more perfect card. We get another. You can only do one per, but that's fine. Wow. Fantastic. That was the first action. Second action, we do it again. Shriveling. We bring out the Unexpected Courage and another alchemical transformation. So that's, again, a 5, 6, and 8 versus a 4. Chaos Bag says -1. Yep, for each ghoul. So successful again. Brilliant. 2 more damage. Wow. So that was our second go. So really we're down to the last turn. We shrivel again. And we bring these 2 out. So this is a 5, 7, 8, 9. It's a 9 versus a 4. As long as we don't auto-fail, the Ghoul Priest is dead. The crowd has gone hushed. There is silence in the arena. You can hear a pin drop. The Ghoul Priest's knees are trembling as Akachi draws another spell from her shriveling, and the Chaos Bag says, Elder Sign. Not only does she completely blows him away on the final thing. The Ghoul Priest dies. A terrible, terrible death. I should have taken another horror, I just realized, for the skull, which I didn't do. Not that it matters. And there we are, ladies and gentlemen. Akachi is running around the arena, waving at the crowd. The crowd goes wild, absolutely wild. That was a really a dream, fantastic run for Akachi. She has achieved something which... is she the only one? I can't remember, or maybe there's only one other. So in 12 turns, she's managed to get 2, 3, 4, 5 victory points, which gives us 7 experience points by turn 12. She's absolutely, if not close to the top of the table, at the top of the table. That was a brilliant run. Things went really, really well for her. She managed to use her spells to great effect. We got the Spirit Speaker at exactly the right time, which allowed us to bring back our shriveling and then replay it again. We had the Ward of Protection, which made sure that we didn't come a cropper at the last minute. So things went really, really well. I'm really delighted. Akachi is delighted. She's racing around the arena, jumping and hollering, and the whole crowd is behind her. So an absolutely fantastic run for Akachi. So you can see where Akachi is on the league table after this. At the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Next week, we'll be starting on the Forgotten Age Investigators, as I said, and Leo Anderson, or Chuckles, as I like to call him, will be up to play the Investigator games. Really is getting tough now to get the top of that league table. It really is some very large shoes to fill. But we'll see how he goes in this one. So until that time, thank you very much. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Krabby Terror 8, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.